Sonic X Shadow Generations is great. I already talked about the new Shadow Generations campaign in my last video. However, today I wanted to take a closer look at the other half of this game, the Sonic Generations remaster, specifically the controversial changes that have been made to the game. Now, if you played this remaster and you didn't notice the changes, that means you're probably a functioning adult. But us Sonic fans, we're built different. If they slightly cover up bat boobies, you'll be sure there's gonna be a riot. A lot of the changes made to the game are very minor, although the fact that the changes are so minuscule is honestly what makes them so interesting. So let's talk about a few of them. A lot of the dialogue has been changed to be more like the dialogue from Sonic Frontiers. For those who are unaware, Sonic Frontiers' dialogue had a fair amount of references to characters, places, and events from past games in the franchise.
I wonder if there's a Chow Garden hidden around here. Might not be the right climate. That is some heavy firepower. Omega would be jealous. Kinda reminds me of where we found Babylon Garden. I wonder what Jet's up to.
A lot of people have expressed issues with this, believing that these references feel hollow and forced. Like the references are only there to make you, as a Sonic fan, feel smart because you wasted valuable years of your life playing these games, so you remember that one thing that happened that one time, in that one place, in that one game. And now, the same dialogue style has reappeared in the Sonic Generations remaster.
We're traveling through time, Sonic!
Without the time stones?
Oh my gosh, is that a Sonic CD reference? It's kind of hilarious because in the original Generations, Sonic and Tails didn't even remember Green Hill or Chemical Plant, but in the remaster, the story was rewritten so that now they do remember those places.
Is it me, or is that place we were just in awfully familiar?
Not to me, but this place looks like something sucked all the life and color out of it.
Is it just me, or does Green Hill look different?
This isn't South Island, and all the color and life's been drained from it. This chemical plant feels familiar. I'd never forget a smell like this. And that pink water makes me really nervous for some reason.
You're right, Tails. This place is giving me deja vu all over again.
This is definitely the chemical plant, but we're not remotely on West Side Island. Did that monster do this?
I can believe that Sonic and Tails don't remember Green Hill. In Sonic's case, Green Hill might as well just be another bunch of grass he ran through. And in Tails' case, Tails wasn't with Sonic when he went through Green Hill, because Tails wasn't in Sonic 1. I can also believe that Sonic doesn't recall Chemical Plant, as Chemical Plant is just another one of the many industrial levels in the Sonic series. But I do think it makes sense that the remaster changed it so that Tails remembers Chemical Plant. Because 1, Tails is from West Side Island, the place where Chemical Plant is located, so it makes sense that he'd remember it. And 2, Chemical Plant is one of the places that Tails and Sonic went to on their first big adventure together. Tails was a big Sonic fanboy, and you're telling me he wouldn't remember one of the very first places he and Sonic traveled together to? Overall, my stance on the references is about the same as it was when I talked about the issue in my Sonic Frontiers video. I find the references charming. They didn't feel excessive for the most part. In Frontiers, I can only remember a handful of times the characters brought up old events in actual cutscenes. And when those references do happen, they often make sense. Like when Tails is feeling like a burden to Sonic, Sonic reminds him of all the times he's been helpful. Most of the references were just throwaway voice lines during gameplay if you got to certain areas, and I only heard like 2 or 3 of them in the over 40 hours that I have in that game. Eggman does bring up topics from older games in his Egg Memos, but those are meant to be a personal diary for him while he's trapped almost entirely alone in cyberspace. He's got nothing better to do than to think about stuff that happened in the past. As for the case of the references in the Sonic Generations remaster, did you guys forget the game you were playing? It's Sonic Generations, an entire game all about going through Sonic's past. This is nostalgia bait fan service the game, but Tails bringing up West Side Island is where you draw the line? Some people think the references hurt the world building, but I think the references help the series feel like an established universe where things don't just happen and they're promptly forgotten about. These events stick with the protagonist and the characters they meet have an effect on them, even if it's a small one. I mean, think about it. Don't you and your friend group have running gags and funny moments that you bring up all the time? Maybe one friend who's always late, or that one weird lady you used to work with, or that one place in town you all swear to never go back to again. To be fair, sometimes the references references in the recent games do come off as a bit awkward, but overall, they made sense to me. Like Sonic and Tails are dealing with a monster that can manipulate time, it makes total sense to bring up the time stones. But hey, maybe you find the references cringy. Like I said, these changes were controversial. Everyone has an opinion. I think that's all I have to say on the subject of the references, so let's move on to some other changes. There were other dialogue alterations, like most infamously Knuckles' comment about classic Sonic's weight being removed.
Thanks, Sonic. You did a good job back there. Hey, did you gain weight?
Thanks, Sonic. Now then, tell me, where is the rest of my island?
They keep the same animation in the remaster, even though his comment is completely different, so it ends up looking pretty awkward. One way that they make the game less awkward than the original version is that they actually let modern Sonic talk now after he saves his friends.
I was scared because somebody took me, but now I'm free! I'm a freebie! 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 Whee! I was scared because somebody took me, but now I'm free! I'm a freebie! 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 Whee!
Alright, just simmer down, buddy.
For classic Sonic, it made sense that he didn't say anything when he saved someone, as being mute was kind of his shtick, but for the normally chatty modern Sonic, it was quite odd that he wouldn't say anything, only giving some sort of emote. So that was a nice improvement that the remaster made. But enough playing around. Let's move on to the most controversial issue in the remaster. Rouge's back. For some reason, Rouge's back has been covered so that now it looks like her wings are just phasing through her clothes somehow. I would say maybe the developers are trying to make the character a bit less overtly sensual since they did cover up her chest more, but this game also has a random butt shot. I don't know what the goal was here. Alright, let's move on to the second most controversial issue in the remaster, Amy. So for a long time in the video games, Amy's most prominent personality trait was that she was a big fan of Sonic. She's constantly chasing after him, flirting with him, and she consistently has Sonic on the brain. In recent games though, Amy's huge crush on Sonic has been drastically scaled back. She still has a thing for him, but it's not as overt as it once was. Compare Sonic's birthday party in the OG generations, where he literally has to hold her back so she isn't all over him, to the remaster, where she's just kinda standing there innocently with some cupcakes. There are some people who aren't fans of these changes in the Generations remaster. Some have even called this new Amy boring. So here's my take. I've said before that I didn't particularly care for Amy as a character. My problem with her is that a large part of her personality was written like that of the cliche, stereotypical girl character. She's constantly fawning over her boy crush Sonic, constantly thinking about Sonic, constantly talking to other people about Sonic. She'd choose Sonic over the entire world. She's so obsessed with Sonic that often the very first thing she does in a game is crush on Sonic. In Sonic Adventure 1, in the first cutscene of her campaign, she talks about how much her life sucks now that Sonic isn't here. In her first appearance in the Dark campaign of Sonic Adventure 2, she hugs Shadow because she's so blindly in love with Sonic that she practically goes blind when she mistakes Shadow for Sonic. Something she does again with Silver in Sonic 06. And in Sonic Heroes, Team Rose's opening cutscene starts with her staring at a picture of Sonic. Like Amy, I get it, I'm a Sonic fan too, but I'm not staring at this guy's picture 24/7. Here's the thing, I don't mind Amy having a crush on Sonic. That's perfectly fine. But when it's overdone and it becomes a defining part of who she is, it starts to get annoying. To be fair, she does stand up to Sonic occasionally, like when she stops him from finishing off Gamma, so it's not like she's a doormat. But still, the whole thing is a bit excessive. It sucks because I actually like Amy when she isn't just mega simping over Sonic. She's legit the MVP of a lot of Sonic games. She rescued Princess Elise from Eggman in Sonic 06. She befriended Gamma, leading him to betray Eggman in Adventure 1. And in SA2, by talking to Shadow, she caused him to remember his promise to Maria, making him turn good. Side note, can we please get more Shadow and Amy interactions? I think they're fun together in The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Speaking of that game, I think The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog has my favorite version of Amy in a Sonic game. She's the best character in that game. She has hilarious moments, she's clever, and the expressions on some of her sprites are amazing. In other words, I like Amy when she's written like an actual person. Another reason why fans say that Amy is boring now is that the recent games also made Amy less overtly violent. She just hits Knuckles in the face instead of in the original release where she sent the dude flying. I kinda like the idea of Amy being this sneakily super strong person who can just knock people flying with a slight push, so I am against this change. I can understand why they did it. Doesn't matter if you're a dude or a lady, hitting people is not cool. But I do think that the violence being so over the top in the original makes it lean more into slapstick comedy. Do I think they should have gone back and changed Amy's personality in the Generations remaster? I mean, probably not. It happened. Amy was who she was in Generations. Going back and changing it wasn't really necessary. Just do her character differently going forward. And honestly, that's how I feel about a lot of the changes. If you want to move the series in a different direction for future games, that's fine. But don't try and pretend like it didn't happen. We're Sonic fans. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? But hey, those are just my thoughts on the situation. There are probably 4 camps when it comes to the changes made in this remaster. The people who think they should have kept the characters the same, the people who like the changes, the people who are fine with the changes but wish they didn't change up stuff that already happened, and the people who don't care. Probably the most sensible ones of the bunch. Like I mentioned before, this is a controversial issue, and I was just giving my opinion. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. My feelings on this aren't set in stone. I'm perfectly open to hear what you all have to say, and it might sway my mind. In any case, I recommend you check out my video on the other half of this game, Shadow Generations, that I released not too long ago. If you want even more Sonic content, I have a whole playlist of my other Sonic videos you can watch. That's all I've got to talk about for today though, so thanks for watching y'all, and have a great rest of your day.